Hello, welcome to a Sunday night Super Bowl edition of Friday Night Knits. My name is Rachel. I am a knitter, crocheter, a teacher. Occasionally I talk about my personal life, but I always will keep you up to date about my knitting. And I decided to do this mini episode because this week has been a crazy week. My son was sick, and then I got sick again, and then it was like my first full week with my students. It was just a week, and so I was just like, okay, I need to woosah. And as I was going through the week, I was constantly working on this one particular project that I just have to talk about. And I was like, well, before I talk about a project, I also got to talk about some stuff that came in. So this is a mini episode where I talk about my strategic planning, my strategic knitting, and what outcomes came to be because of those two things. So I successfully, my grandmother Rosella must be like, Rachel, take those. This was my grandmother Rosella. That was her name, Rosella. She had these beautiful Tiffany lamps in her home, and when she passed away, my grandfather inherited them, and when he passed away, I inherited it. So I am named after her, so I feel honored that I have her lamps. But she would probably be pissed with me. She knew I hung this beautiful finished object. So this is sweater number 15 by My Favorite Knitwear. I have been working on this since December 19th. It has gone through so much, and I have went back and forth about knitting an all over white cable sweater ever since I saw Knives Out with several actors. But the actor that influenced this garment was Chris Evans. One of the scenes he wears is beautiful all over cabled, or textured I should say, because there was other elements added to it. It's like, oh, I have to make that. I want to wear something like that. I live in this weather. It's like ideal climate. So fast forward 3 years later, I finally made one. So this all over cable sweater, it requires you to use a worsted weight or Aran weight depending on where you live. And I decided to do mine in DK weight. I used Sandus Garn double Sunday, and I didn't hold it with anything. I just knit it straight through, and I've had this yarn for a few years, which is the reason why there's a slight discoloration here at the very bottom. If there is going to be a discoloration, I'm kind of glad it's at the bottom and not the top of the sweater, but I do notice it, and you probably can't tell. It's just me being nitpicky, but I put it on. I absolutely love it. It just got off the blocking mat. I decided not to do any crazy blocking to it because it is oversized already. It's meant to have between 8 to 10 inches of positive ease. It has tons of positive ease, and the length of, and she was right. When I say she, the designer was right. She said that the sleeves are going to grow, and man, did they grow. The only thing I dislike about this particular pattern, and that if I were to ever knit an all over cable sweater, this particular pattern again, I would definitely do something to reshape the end of the sleeves, because I'm not a big fan of bell sleeves, and it feels a little bellish, and I would have gone down a needle size. Like after I finished, like once I passed my elbow, I probably would have gone down a needle size just to make it a little bit more tapered. But all in all, I absolutely love it. The pattern was super clear, and it's definitely easy, just something to put on your mind where you just will not forget about it. So this was a score. So glad and proud of myself for working on this and finishing it. So this is my first finished object for this weekend. I have a second finished object that I completed this weekend that I'm going to have to insert a picture of because it is in another space in the room, and I am not leaving this warm, cozy space that I'm in right now. So I always like to bring with me a work project where I am able to, when I'm on lunch or if I'm in a meeting, I can just whip out my knitting, or if I'm feeling a little anxious, or if I need to just process stuff, because these teenagers definitely come out their mouth and say things sometimes in a certain tone of voice where it just makes you question, where it's like, what did you just say to me? And you're like, you got to remind yourself, you got to pay your mortgage. You can't respond back in the way that you would typically. So with that said, I use my knitting just to process all these different emotions that I feel sometimes whenever I'm teaching. And I did not have a project that was engaging me at work. And I was like, you know what? When I finish my sweater number 15, I'm going to come home and I'm going to cast on the perfect at work project. So that way, when I'm in those headspaces, I can engage with that. Well, Friday night, I finished my sweater and I'm like so proud of myself. I get it all wet blocked and sorted out. And I decided to grab this clearance cashmere purple yarn that I have been eyeing for a minute. I can show you the yarn because I do have with me. So I had 2 skeins of this. This is, hopefully the camera perfect, it's focusing. It's this beautiful worsted weight cashmere yarn that I fell in love with when I saw it, because this is like one of my favorite versions of a purple. I'm not a big fan of lilac, but this is doing it. So I'm sitting here and I was like, yes, I'm going to cast it on. I get it on, couldn't stop. I'm listening to my audiobook. Next thing you know, I'm finished. And I was like, well, that was an accident. I wasn't supposed to do that. And I'm like, I need work knitting. I need something to knit with. So this is what happened. Hang on one second. Let me reposition myself. And yes, I'm in my pajamas because this is a Super Bowl edition. So I finished the headband faster than what I was supposed to. So I decided I need something to work on. So I'm like, you know what? I said I was going to make some socks. I was making a pair of socks for my husband. It was not coming out the way I wanted it to. Let me see if I have it nearby. I don't know. There was just something about it I didn't like. Here it is. I had started this. As you can see, I made pretty decent progress. I was able to do the cuff. There was no problems with the cuff. The pattern was coming along fairly well, like that. I just didn't like the yarn. And the yarn I was using, yeah, even the hill came out really great. The hill, like, zero complaint. I just didn't like the yarn. The yarn I was using I used Mayax yak and cotton, and like he loves cotton, so like nothing about the yarn was the issue. Like it worked up really well. The texture pattern is fine. I like the pattern design. I just could not continue to knit it. I just did not fall in love with it. I felt it was a little too, it didn't have a good shaping, and I don't think that yarn is the proper yarn to use for footwear. So I decided to take that off the needles and cast on another foot project. Now, since he prefers to wear my hats, I thought like, oh, maybe I'll make him another hat or something. I did just recently make him a hat, so I'm not feeling as motivated. I'm like, I'm just going to focus on making myself a pair of socks, and maybe I can figure out a hat pattern. I've always wanted to make a colorwork sock. I just don't feel ready for that yet. So before I'd make a colorwork sock, I was like, you know what, why don't I do a faded sock? It still incorporates color expectations. It still will give me the skill that I need to develop in order to interact with multiple colors of yarn. So I went through Summer Lee's sock project book, and I was able to find or read her recipe for color for that. So I went ahead and went through my stash, and I was able to find this beautiful ball of yarn that's laying alpaca sock. I bought this about 2 years ago now, maybe even closer to 3, and have yet to use it for any project. It has been tested out a few times, but I couldn't find the right project until now. And so this is going to, this was my first attempt to fade. So I'm going to use this color, this really cute pink. In the pink, I know it's a little hard to see, but there's little speckles of the blue that's almost identical to this color here. And then I thought I would fade in, after I do that, I was going to fade in this variegated, and it also has speckles in it as well. And I just thought that, oh, that's going to be perfect. And then to finish it off, like the toe would be this color. And so I know the lighting is a little off, but these 3 I thought would go really well together. So I went ahead and put that on my needles. And then I was thinking, like, I really, really like this color and I'm excited about it. And I'm feel a little behind in my sock knitting. I need more socks to knit on. So maybe I should cast on another sock. So I did. This is all on Friday night, mind you. So I went through my collection, and I found this ball of yarn, which is, this was a part of my Advent that I got 2 years ago from Magpie Fibers. They gave you 1 full skein of their swanky yarn, and then you got 20 grams of their fingering weight yarn. I think it was the quartet fingering, if I remember correctly. So I have a whole bunch of them. They give you about, oh gosh, it was 24 Advent. So I think I got about 20 grams. of it. I didn't like the advent, so, and that was another story for another day. But anywho, I had this one and I thought this was a really great color. So this was like a part of the inspiration. And then I found this little ball of yarn. I don't know where this came from. I'm assuming it was one of those little 20-gram skeins that was attached to another full skein of yarn. So I'm like, this would be the perfect cuff. And this one, again, lighting's horrible. I totally understand. But this particular speckle yarn is, its primary color is white, but it's speckled with the same color purple as this yarn. So like these three will be a perfect fade. So I'm also fading this one too. And I was able to cast on the cuff. I am nearly finished with the length of the cuff, and then I will go ahead and continue on with the pattern. And she just did a video. What inspired this was the her little mini vlog that she did about like doing faded socks, and I was just like, oh, this is like serendipity. So went ahead, watched that, reread the chapter that she wrote about fading socks, and here we are. My hope is that I will stick to it because I tend to get scared, but I'm just going to follow her directions exactly as written since I've never done it before. And then the more I could become comfortable with it, I think the better I'll be at fading, because I've made mistakes in the past when I attempted to fade and I don't want to do that again. But all in all, really glad that I am going through my collection of yarn and using that, and B, that I'm using some of my purples and pinks that are in there, because that's what this weekend was about. Lots of purple and pink. So one of these bags will be at home with me and the other will be at work. So we'll see what ends up happening as well. This poor bag has been through so many different things. So it's on a struggle. I got this from Rhinebeck, not this past year, but the year before. So that happened, and I'm like, okay, like I don't feel the need to cast on anything else. I'm happy with those two projects. I got that, and I was just sitting here. I was like, you know what? Let me just focus on my throwover. Let me get working on that. And I haven't touched the throwover since I broke for sleeves. So here is my throwover. Didn't touch it at all this weekend, and I broke for sleeves, as you can see, and pretty much kind of got stuck because there's nothing else to do but to do the sleeve in a tube and then do the rest of the body. There is, the collar is done, like there is nothing else like it's really engaging. So this is definitely more of a social knit, and it looks like I did, oh wow, I did a full inch of the body since breaking for the sleeve. And with this one, I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to focus on. I couldn't make myself sit and do it. So I was like, okay, what am I going to work on? So I decided to calm myself. I took out my trusty journal. Where is she? She's right here. Took out my trusty journal and I started to write. And in my writing reflections, I came to this new label for myself, that I am a strategic knitter. I'll say it again. I am a strategic, let's try one more time. I am a strategic knitter. And the reason why I gave myself this new label is because I try to be very intentional about my knitting projects. I will always have a project that I am going to have for my social interactions with my peers. I will always have a project that I can bring with me to work to kind of help me channel the energy in a different way. And then finally, I always want a project that's going to stimulate me, that's going to keep me engaged, where if I'm listening to a boring audiobook, I'm happy, but if I'm listening to a really great audiobook, I can still be equally happy. Those are the three type of projects that I tend to always have on my needles. It has never been done where I will cast on just for the sake of cast on, and that's what happened this weekend. So I should have worked on my Stella cushion, my throwover, hell, even my shift again. Instead, I decided to listen to my heart. I decided to put my strategic nature to the side instead of just focus on the fact that I always wanted a purple sweater and I've always wanted a pink sweater. So I went ahead and decided to listen to my heart and cast those things on. So I went through my queue and I was trying to decide which yarn would be ideal for, which pattern, I should say, which pattern would be ideal for me to use this Lion brand yarn. I respun 100% recycled polyester. Now, why I decided to go with this, I have been spending about a year now looking for the perfect purple yarn, and in more of a DK worsted weight. The yarn I purchased from Needles at the Ready, it's a perfect color purple, but it's at a fingering weight. I would need to buy at least 3, if not 4 skeins of it in order to make a sweater. The purple yarn I just showed you before that I use for my headband, That particular purple yarn, there were only 2 skeins of it left, so it wasn't enough to do a full garment. And so when I was at Joann's a few months ago, I saw this color purple. I was like, that's the purple I've been looking for. This is perfect. So I come home with it and I'm ready to cast on with it. But I'm like, ooh, but it's not wool, and I've only been working with wool for the past year. I've only made a few blankets with with acrylic. So I have not made myself a garment that used acrylic, because the last time I made a garment that used acrylic, it was way too hot. Now, granted, it was a crochet garment, and those tend to use up more yarn and be heavier. So I had this whole argument with myself. So I decided to put this particular yarn on hold. Now, this skein was, I think it was priced between $10 to $12, maybe even less. I think I got it less than this at Joann's. And I'm like, you know what? I can make a sweater for $20. It comes with 658 yards. It's considered to be worsted weight, and it's recommended for every 20 stitches, you should use a 4.5 millimeter needle. So I was like, this is the yarn. The right color, maybe not the right yarn. What if it gives me hot flashes and I don't end up enjoying it or wearing it, blah, blah, blah. Like, I had this whole argument with myself about not using the yarn. So fast forward to this weekend. Sorry, like, this is such a long-winded story, but I have to tell you this. To fast forward to this weekend, I want to cast on a purple sweater and I want to cast on a pink sweater. I know that this is going to be the case. I am watching TLY Crafts, Tony Lipsy's overview about what's happening with Joann's. She did this really great vlog with herself and her mom going to Joann's and exploring the store and seeing, like, is it true that this particular store, not her Joann's, but Joann's in general, is it going to go out of business because of the different stories that she's been hearing on the internet and so on, that we've all heard in the news or on the internet. So she did this whole thing, and they picked out such beautiful yarns. Her and her mother did a fabulous job going yarn shopping, and she showed it. And I was like, you know what? I need to stop being such a yarn snob when it comes down to this yarn. It is the right color, it's a great yardage, and it's in a great budget. Why not just really give it a try? If I pick out the right yarn or the right pattern, I can make this really come to life. So excuse the language if you hear in the background. My husband's watching the Super Bowl right now, and he's one of those people who yells and talks to the screen like they can hear you. But anywho, I go onto my queue and I'm like scrolling through trying to look for the right pattern, and I found the pattern called it's called a Snuggle sweater. Again, I'm hoping that this is on your screen so you can actually see it. So the Snuggle sweater was there. It was one of those random projects that I came across. I think it was on like Instagram or something. Someone had posted a picture of it. I was like, oh, that's cute. I really like it. I went on to the designer's website, and I ended up purchasing that pattern as well as the powder vest that the designer had on there. So again, all this information is hopefully on the screen. So I went ahead and cast on, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to even do a gauge swatch because I don't want to talk myself out of the pattern. So I didn't do a gauge swatch. I just went right into making the pattern. And I think what sold me on it, that it wasn't a raglan increase. Now, I do want to make a raglan sweater, but raglans take a level of commitment that I wasn't ready to do yet with this particular yarn. So what I decided to do, and when I saw that it was a drop shoulder cast on, because with drop shoulder cast on is what I've noticed. Most of them are like this trapezoid that you knit flat for a period of time, usually between 8 to 10 inches. And then after you do that, you pick up for the left and you pick up on the right, you join it in the front. And then you knit back and forth until you're ready to join it around. And then you just knit round and round and round. Then you do the shoulders. That has been my drop shoulder experience. So I assumed, and this is what's been happening so far. So I made my trapezoid, as you can see, with this one. Although I would like the back a little bit longer, but I don't want it to, but maybe I don't. But I did a gauge swatch. So once I finished the amount of inches I needed to do before picking up for the front, I decided this is a good time to do a gauge swatch, because the way that the trapezoid, I'm like, this is just an oversized gauge swatch. That's how I told myself, and I got gauge. So because I had both row gauge and stitch gauge, I decided just to kind of keep it moving. And I used my new gadget I got from Twice Sheared Sheep. So it's this, hopefully you can see it. As you can see, you line the boxes up with your stitches and it will tell you how many stitches. And I have 4.5 per inch, which is what the pattern calls for. And that's what I did. So I got gauge. I'm knitting along. As you can see, I finished the left side and I'm working on the right side. This was all in one sitting. I could not seem to put it down. And so I was having a really good time with this. So this was a Saturday cast on, because by Friday, it was late. I needed to go to bed. But Saturday, I had this on the needles and ready to go. So I put this down for whatever reason. I think I went to the restroom or I had to make lunch for my sons. I don't know. Oh no, my son got sick. That's what happened. My sons were supposed to go to my sister-in-law's sister's daughter's birthday party, and neither one of them really wanted to go because the little girl's 2 and they're 10 and 8, and they don't do baby parties, as they say. So they weren't really feeling the party experience in itself. Plus the 8-year-old that I have, hasn't been 100% all week. Like, he's definitely been showing signs of something, and he got sick again because he got sick on Thursday night, I want to say. Yeah, I want to say Thursday. He threw up everywhere. Sorry if that's cursing out loud, but whatever. Threw up everywhere and decided to do the same thing this weekend. So I had to put my knitting down to go take care of that. And so when I came back to sit down, I didn't have the headspace to work on this anymore. So I'm like, I'm gonna take a break from this. I took a break from this. I put this down, and what ended up happening, I'll show you. Ended up happening, I'm sitting here, it's like I need to do something, and I'm thinking, and I'm like, I really want to knit a pink sweater. So I went and grabbed 2 of these balls of yarn that I've been staring at and been wanting to work on forever, but just haven't touched it. I was like, I need to do something with it. So by this point, it's like 11 o'clock at night. I need to go to bed. So I finally went to bed. Woke up this morning. Very first thing I did when I came into this room after feeding everyone breakfast and cleaning out the cars, because we had a huge snowstorm last night. I sat down with the pattern I haven't looked at or touched since purchasing it back in 2021. It's a pattern called the Illuminate by Andrea Mowry. Now, this pattern calls for sport weight yarn. It is a color work and the yoke and then stripe in the body. It's top down, and it's a really beautiful design, and it's something that I've looked at and considered doing, but for whatever reason, always talked myself out of it. I had multiple different ideas in mind with the collection of yarn I had in order to make it. Well, today I decided just to go for it. So here's my little strategic self engaging in that. So here it is. I am using the yarn that I purchased from Joann's, the Eddie Bauer lightweight alpaca yarn. And this is what I've done so far today. So I am in love. Now, I didn't do the full collar yet. I decided just to do I think I ended up doing 9 rounds, and I put it on hold. My goal is to pick up stitches where this little pink line is, and then go ahead and do another probably like 9 rounds, and then fold it over. So that way I know where to fold it over at. Yeah, I don't know why. I just wanted to go right into it. And I noticed that for my DRK Everyday sweater, it's a 2x2 ribbing. And unfortunately, that collar has stretched out. Now, I think it's stretched out due to the yarn I used. I used Drops soft tweed, and that really doesn't hold it just doesn't do well with the ribbing. It's fine with the body, but whatever. So I don't know how this is going to work, because this is 80% alpaca, and let me bring up the full skein. It is 80% superwash merino and 20% alpaca. So I'm hoping that this will hold its shape. It's super squishy. The colors I'm using are bright white, and the other is this beautiful hot pink. So I have the hot pink like caked up because it couldn't both fit into the bag like this. So this is just one ball of it, but it's really, really pretty. And I was hesitant. So when I initially started going with this and I saw the pink, I was like, oh, that is a brighter pink than what I thought. I don't think I want to do that. So I went back and forth with myself, and I went and got my bag from Beautiful Sister. I decided I wanted to keep it in here for whatever reason. And I was like talking myself out of continuing to work on this pattern. And I'm like, you know what? No. As I do have beautiful hot pink yarn that I could have used in place of this, but I have the right amount of yardage with the Eddie Bauer yarn. I absolutely love it. Why not just use it and give it a chance? Step out of my comfort zone, stop being such a control strategic freak, and just let it go and see what happens. So I'm so glad I did, because it is going really well. My floats look how great my floats look. I am like, go Rachel. So I'm loving my floats. I love the way it looks, and it's coming along really well. And I totally see myself. I'm trying to like pace myself because I just got into it and could not stop it. As well. So I'm trying to like slow down. I'm on the second chart, and once I finish the second chart, there isn't any more color work. The rest of it, oh no, I'm lying. There's two charts. You do chart A, then you do some increasing, then you do chart B, then looks like I'm going to be doing some more increasing, and then you'll do chart A again. And so that's been really helpful. And another thing that's really helped me, at least with both, this is my second Andrea, well, technically third, Andrea and Mowry pattern that uses some form of color work. And I've done the frame your face cowl as well as the frame sweater. And I used stitch markers in order to pace myself about the repeat, because obviously you're doing stitch work and round, because in my other garment where is a stitch work, it was just the front and the back, so I didn't really need stitch markers as much for that one. But I found that this is the perfect pattern to do that. So I use my stitch markers just to indicate the new repeat. And so for chart B, for example, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 repeats for my size. And they help. So that way, if I'm off a count or it's just not looking right, I can just like go back and see like where I left off. I'm fine that I'm able to do a much better job with my color work knitting when I do that. So we'll see. This is just a top yoke, and I have it on like the smallest wire. So I probably should use a larger cable. And I will increase the cable, but right now I'm enjoying using my, Lecky, I think it's Lecky. I don't know. I'm using my Lecky shorties. I've had these for a few years now. These are my go-to for like anything I have to do in a small circumference if magic loop is not appropriate. When I initially started working on this, I was using 2 circular needles, so that was what the ribbon came to, and I was really, really pleasantly surprised by that. And all in all, with this particular sweater, I must say it's very lightweight. I had expected it to be a little bit heavier because it's considered to be a lightweight DK, lightweight worsted. And so far it's not feeling like that as well. It's definitely feeling more DK weight, more like sport DK weight. And it is a thin yarn I don't know how well you can see that, but it is fairly thin. But all in all, definitely enjoying it. So, so glad I went ahead and put this on my needles. I'm using this Knit Pick little holder in order to keep the pattern there. And I'm using this to kind of like, keep my pace about where I'm going. So I'm loving this new setup for that. So I got my purple sweater on my needles. I got my pink sweater on the needles. I have my Throwover. I have all the projects I've ever wanted to cast on basically on my needles. And so now it's just actually knitting them. One final project, because when I say it was cast on fever this weekend, it was cast on fever. So here's my Stellar cushion. Haven't done any work on it whatsoever. It's been about a week, almost 2, since I touched it. So I need to, hopefully this will learn to take priority, because I have a new setup in my yarn room and I really, really want the cushion inside. In addition, I decided to purchase some Italian yarn to give it a whirl. So the Italian yarn I decided to purchase is the Gepard Puna Lina. Oh God, I said that horrible. Let's try this again. Gepard Pura Lana. There we go. So I'll actually show a label because that's probably better. This particular yarn I purchased from an Etsy shop. I thought it was really cool. That it was at its price range and so accessible, and I'm like, it's perfect for a muscle burr cut because there's plenty of yarn, and whatever I have left over I can just add to another project or just let it go. So this is as far as I got. I did the pinhole cast on, and it wasn't as complicated. The one where the designer, her video, it was not really clicking, so I watched another YouTuber, and it finally clicked. And with this particular version, I was using my metal needles when I was first doing it, but the yarn kept slipping off. I don't know if it's the oils in my hand or the oils of the yarn, but it just wasn't compatible. So I decided to use my Clover bamboo needles, and so far so good with it. And I probably just continue to use those until it's time to move into the 16-inch. So, and this project is living in my Hoagie Lucky Telly prize bag that she sent me a few weeks ago now. So that was another cast on. I was going to cast on my turtle dove shawl, but I decided not to because I got so caught up in the purple sweater, and then today I got so caught up in my pink sweater that because pink is definitely the dominant, like there is obviously white, but the dominant color is definitely pink. And I'm holding the yarn with the pink yarn with my left hand and the white yarn with my other hand. So let me show you what I mean. I do combination knitting for my colorwork patterns. I have my white yarn over here on my little table, and I have the pink yarn down here on the floor in my bag. And I bought this little oversized tote from Target, and I found that it's doing a really good job of just like keeping all of my projects, so I can sit in this chair, just grab a project bag and engage with it as well. And so far so good. I cannot complain. I'm really enjoying working on this. I'm loving the fact that I can use my stitch markers as well as my magnet to help me keep pace about where I'm at. And so I'm hoping that I can have the yoke finished by the end of the week, because it is definitely very engaging. I'm absolutely in love with this pattern, and I didn't expect to be. I had no plans whatsoever. It wasn't on my queue, wasn't even on my radar. It just literally just popped to mind. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do that pattern, and here we are. So with this Super Bowl edition weekend, I guess I engaged in the ultimate Super Bowl challenge of casting on several projects. I have 2 socks cast on, 2 sweater cast on, and a hat. So that was a lot to cast on all in one weekend. Plus, I finished one of my coveted projects I've been dying to do for too long. And so I cannot wait to wear this bad boy. Obviously, I tried it on after it finished, and just seeing myself in it pre-blocking, I was like, if it looks this good pre-blocked, man. And it took everything to make me like put this because I wanted just to wear it right then and there. But I'm glad I chose to block it, because it definitely made the cables just pop out even more so. So happy about that. With this particular Super Bowl weekend, other than my son being sick, it has been a very quiet but chilled weekend. We got a huge snowstorm Saturday night, so lots of snow shoveling today, which is all good. Had to take a little bit of a muscle relaxer because my back was feeling super tight. Lots of laundry done. And while doing all that, I have been listening or re-listening to the Rebecca Yarros Iron Flame series. And so I'm on the 3rd book, Fourth Wing series, I should say, because I listened to Fourth Wing, flew through it. And what was so great about listening to it again, I got reconnected with some aspects of the story that I forgot about. Some things I didn't like notice the first time, like it kind of clicked. It's like listening to it again. So that was really enjoyable. So whenever I wasn't listening, I was reading it because it was also free on my Kindle. So I was going back and forth between the two. And then I decided to listen to Iron Flame, which was also free on my Kindle as well. So I was listening to it and reading at the same time. And so super engaged with both of those. And now I am listening to the 3rd book, and I have only 7 hours left. So I'm trying to pace myself. Because at first I was listening to it super fast. And when I saw no one else was waiting for it on Libby, I was like, I'll just take my time listening to it and not rush to it. But I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I got a chance I took a break and listened to my podcast, especially while I was cleaning up my son's mess. So much. It was such a big mess. I was listening to that as well. And then I took a shower just to kind of clean myself because I felt so gross. after cleaning up his sickness. But anyway, I digress. So I definitely got further ahead than what I had anticipated. And I ended up making myself stop to listen to some podcasts that I haven't listened to in a while. So it was nice to catch up on a couple of them that I haven't been, that's been out for for a while now, but for whatever reason, I hadn't had a chance to listen to. So that was lovely. And what else? That is about it. I'm also reading, in addition to listening and reading the Fourth Wing series, I'm also reading this book called The Perfect Match. It is so good. I cannot believe how good it is. I have to tell myself to go to bed because you can't stay up all night. So there is a book. Oh no, it's called the One. The One. Oh, sorry. I'm like showing. Oh, almost showed you the book, but it's really, really good. I am enjoying it. I've read one of his other books, the author's other book, and it was just as engaging, and I couldn't put it down. So this was no different. So definitely have been enjoying the nice, quiet weekend. And I'm so glad that my husband and sons have the Super Bowl to distract them, because now I can just spend this whole evening uninterrupted by myself. I already cleaned the kitchen. I did all the laundry. It's like, so I can just like hang out. So I'm trying to decide if I'm going to listen to my audiobook or look for another YouTube thing to watch. There's nothing else on YouTube I need to watch. I've realized I've done it all. So I'm going to let myself get engrossed again with the Fourth Wing series, and just when it's over, it's going to be over, and I just got to accept it. And that's it. Now, a few of you may be wondering about the pillow. I think I mentioned it a few weeks ago when it came up, but I'll mention it again. I have been a fan of William Bradley Pitt since I was in 7th grade. And it's to a point where it's a joke in my family, my immediate biological family, not the one I created, that if he should ever go missing, that people might contact me first, whatnot, because, throughout middle school, high school, college, and even now, there's been posters and pictures of Brad Pitt everywhere. When I graduated from high school in 1999, they gave us these little globes. And in the globe, you're supposed to picture a picture of yourself in your prom date. It's a picture of Brad Pitt I stuck inside or whatnot. That's how bad it is. It's gotten better. Obviously, I hope. I only have one or two, maybe three. Okay, I do have a few pictures of him up in my classroom. However, that was not my idea. It was a joke by my students and a few of my coworkers, and they list so I can't be held responsible for that. So that is the reason why I had the pillow, because one of my coworkers thought it would be funny to send that to me. The basketball was actually, when I was a principal, the seniors wanted to go on a field trip to Six Flags. That was what they wanted as their senior present. So we agreed, paid for it, took them all to Six Flags. So while we're at Six Flags, one of my staff members, she's like, I want to win a ball for Miss G. And I was like, okay, that's what they all called me. I was like, all right. So she did the little basketball thing and she won me the ball, and she picked Wonder Woman because she said that's who I remind her of. So that's why that's there. And then obviously what's all the way at the top is the case that my Child Glue Forte needles came in. I love the way that was packaged. It was beautiful. And so I just decided to keep it. And so that's why it's up there. So that's the little details about the corner. I changed up the space a little bit. I'm looking down at the camera instead of being eye level. We'll see how well that works out. I may end up elevating it as well. And so keep playing around to create a vibe in here. But all in all, just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you to those of you who have subscribed and liked this channel. And I pray that you will continue to enjoy these videos and continue to subscribe. And thank you for joining me for this quick Super Bowl edition of Friday Night Knits.